This is the amazing story of how GDL Automotive became one of Sydney's leading independent Jeep specialists. Prior to starting GDL, I had a full-time job in a small workshop in Manly, and I worked alongside a man named John. A few years later, when I started GDL Automotive and then needed my first employee, John was the go-to guy, and he came and joined me. After a few years, he then parted ways with me and he went to the local Jeep dealership. He worked there for a few years, and then eventually that local dealership closed down and there was no Jeep dealership for a small window of time on the Northern Beaches. John was currently unemployed because of this closure of the dealership, so he reached out to me if he could have his job back, and I naturally said yes. John came back to GDL for the second time and brought with him an array of Jeep knowledge. What also happened around the same time was Jeep owners got wind that John was no longer obviously with the Jeep dealership, as it was no longer there, and that he was working with me, and they sought him out looking for someone who knew the product well, who could look after their Jeeps for them. We then quickly discovered that there was in fact a niche market for Jeep owners who were people who weren't just looking for a car that got them from A to B. They were buying a brand and a product that said something about who they were and what they stood for. These customers were highly aware that Jeeps were problematic, difficult to get parts for, and weren't always or anywhere near the cheapest thing to keep on the road. They also knew that Jeeps were highly suitable for their towing needs and the adventure lifestyle that the product attracts. With this new knowledge, we then started to focus our servicing and maintenance work on the Jeep market. We worked closely with John to pick his brains for everything that he'd learnt while being at the dealership, and then continued to expand our knowledge with new products and problems that were arising outside of John's area of expertise. We then started taking this Jeep content and creating YouTube content, social media and blog content targeting the Jeep owner specifically. We then started creating blog content, social media content and YouTube content specifically targeting the Jeep owner and the problems that Jeeps were presenting. This proved to be a hit, and we quickly gained a huge following in the Jeep owners community. Fast forward a few more years and John left GDL again. This time he's talking about starting his own enterprise where he contracts back to GDL on some of the more complex jobs. So why, after John left, did GDL continue to focus on Jeep ownership? The owner is highly aware of the challenges that come around servicing and maintaining a Jeep. They understand that getting a hold of parts can sometimes be extremely difficult, and keeping their vehicles running can be a challenge. They're also highly appreciative of the efforts that GDL and its staff go to help keep Jeeps running smoothly.